and before that was 2006, I think. I could be wrong, but it doesn't happen that often, so we gotta celebrate appropriately. I've got my, what is it? I'm trying to read. Camp Crystal Lake running team, Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees t-shirt on. I'm ready. Now, I'm gonna give a little bit of a fair warning. What's the phrase? I'm not the biggest Friday the 13th fan, although I absolutely adore horror movies, especially slashers. This is probably my least favorite of the iconic, Friday, Nightmare, Child's Play, Scream, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw. I wouldn't really consider Hellraiser a slasher per se, and I don't think I've seen all of them anyway, so that might be up there as well as one of my least favorites if you do consider it. Although I do like the original, but I'm rambling here. Anyway, this tier list is probably going to piss off a lot of die-hard Friday the 13th fans, and that's okay. If you do not agree with me, leave a comment and give me your ranking, but keep in mind, opinions are opinions. They are subjective. Just because I say something's great doesn't mean it is. Just because I say something sucks doesn't mean it does. But anyway, let's get right into it. So, it's been a while since I've really marathoned each and every one of these and seen them all. I'm not even sure if I've done a marathon back to back to back, but I have seen them all at one point or another, some more than others. So my memory isn't too sharp with these films in terms of lore, although I know the general idea. But earlier today I just got done kind of skimming through all of them and kind of refreshing my memory, so it's gonna be a little bit rough, more so than these previous tier list videos I've done. I will probably revisit this sometime in the near future after I do watch them all in depth and study them and do kind of a marathon. But I couldn't pass up the opportunity to get this video out on Friday the 13th, so this is going to be a very rough one. We may update it in the future. First up is Friday the 13th, the original. Now, when I first saw this movie as a kid, I was confused because I had the preconceived notion that Friday the 13th was Jason Voorhees, which it is, but he doesn't come until part 2. Part 1, spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it, but Pamela Voorhees, his mother, is the killer, and she's just basically getting revenge for Jason, as the counselors neglected him as a boy years ago, and he drowned to death. So, I was kind of taken aback when I first saw it. It is very campy and very cheesy, but that is the charm of these movies. When I watch... Oh, you know what? I just realized I have to add F tier. Bear with me here. the default thing that's here does not have that set up, so give me 1 second. Alright, now we're settled. I thought something was a little weird with my OBS format, but I forget what I was talking about. But yeah, it's campy, cheesy, but that's Friday the 13th. It kind of pioneered these campy slasher movies. When I watch Friday the 13th, what I enjoy the most is just the kills, the slashing, the cheesiness. I don't really care about the story as much, but I'm gonna try to take that into consideration for the rankings. So, this movie, it's not my favorite by any means, but it's also not my least favorite. I would put it, I would put it in a solid B tier, kind of like a high middle. I like the whodunit films. I'm very biased towards them. And the jump scare at the end with young Jason bringing down, oh my god, I can't think of the main character's name, not Jenny. Jenny was part 2, right? What the hell was her name? You see how much of a fan I am of this franchise. it's not amazing, but it's very solid, and it's one of those films you have to watch on Friday the 13th. I mean, obviously, but next up is part 2. Now this is essentially the same exact movie as the original, but with Jason Voorhees. I mean, they're back at the camp. You have a bunch of cannon fodder camp counselors that are just gonna get picked off by Jason. And yeah, this time it's Jason as a grown man who has created this shrine for his mother with her decapitated head, as Pamela Voorhees gets her head cut off in the beginning, or the end of the original. And he has it in this little like shack in the woods, and yeah, he's got new victims. Now we don't have the iconic Jason Voorhees look that we come to know and love with the hockey mask and everything. That comes later. In this one, he just has like a burlap sack over his head. Again, I enjoy the film for what it is, but I don't love it. I think I'd put it on B tier with the original. Now, at the very beginning, they kill the final girl at the end of the original, which I'm not too crazy about. It is what it is. Now, much like the original, where you don't see Pamela Voorhees until the very end, it's all in that first-person point of view. Like, you have the viewpoint of the killer. I think part 2 is very similar to that. You do see Jason more towards the end, I believe. But again, it's kind of him, lurking in the shadows type of deal. But yeah, I put it at B tier. Probably, I might, do I put it above the original? Just because we do have Jason. I might put it below, just for the simple fact that it is kind of a rip-off of the original, but they're very close. They're pretty much on par with me. Next up is part 3. This 3D BS. So this movie, again, is like a carbon copy of the first. There's a dog barking. Is it going to continue? No. Okay. It's pretty much the same exact movie as the first 2. You got camp. You got cannon fodder. You got Jason Voorhees. Just like the second one, except rather than focus on any bit of different plot or story or acting, they hammered home the 3D effects in this movie, and they were not great. It's early 3D effects, but does it show? Now, it's cheesy and nice, like B horror movie feel at a lot of the times. That didn't make any sense. It has a B horror movie feel a lot of the times, but it's not very well done. These special effects aren't as great. I could be wrong, but I don't believe Tom Savini was in on this one. I know he did the original. I'm not sure if he did part 2, and I don't think he did part 3. I could be completely wrong about those. But the special effects were not amazing in this one, to say the least, but it was cheesy enough for what it was. Kevin Bacon's death in the original, I think, is going to be one of my favorites so far. But yeah, and the acting is freaking horrendous. The acting in this movie has one of the worst bits of acting of all time, where, I forget the girl's name, I think she's the stoner, like, discovers Shelly with this throat cut, and she goes, oh my, I can't do it justice because I have to whisper, but it's so bad. The Shelly's dead. Like, oh my, it's so bad, but so funny. I'm gonna put this at C tier. It's the same exact movie, essentially. Jason does get his iconic hockey mask in this one. This is where we first see him grab that. But because the acting is so bad and the 3D effects was hammered home so much, I'm going to put it in C tier. I have no issue watching it by itself or in a marathon, but I can't put it any higher than this, and it doesn't deserve D tier, so this is like the perfect place. Now, part 4. This is... Part 6 is Jason Lives, right? What the hell is this? I gotta Google, give me a second. Bear with me here, folks. Friday, part 4. It's gonna bug me. Because I'm gonna know it. The final chapter, duh. Okay, so this is, spoiler alert, probably my favorite Friday the 13th film. So it's definitely gonna at least be, actually I'm gonna tell you it's probably gonna be A or S. I love the addition of Tommy Jarvis's character. He is one of the main characters that is reoccurring throughout this entire franchise, played by different people, but the character, you know, is the same. In this one, it is done by a young Corey Feldman. He does such a great job on this movie. I love the aspect of a kid as like the main, or one of the main characters, along with his sister. It really adds that element of fear. Like you're you know, with the kids and animals are obviously a whole different ball game. And I like his acting. I like the story. They actually put some story thought into it. For the first time, it's not the same thing as the original 3. I love the look of Jason in this one. Jason's look does get better, like each movie practically. When he gets his mask knocked off, he looks so creepy. He looks great in part 3 when he gets his mask. No. Sorry. Is it part 3? Yeah, part 3 at the end. But I love part 4 as well. Corey Feldman shaving his head at the end and killing Jason, screaming, "Die!" And Jason actually gets killed. For the first movie, Jason wasn't really a thing except for a supposed dead boy in the water. Part 2, he gets... I'm trying to think how part 2 even ends. I'm having a brain fart. But yeah, they all kind of go together over an entire weekend, basically. But he lives throughout the first 3, and at the end of 4, he's actually killed, which is why it was called the final chapter. So I don't think I'd put it in S tier. I don't think any of these movies I would really put in S tier, at least right now as my memory, you know, of these films stands. But definitely a solid A. Yeah, so next up, oh god. Ooh, part 5. It sounds like a dog. What is going on out there? I might have to cut this video. That's getting obnoxious. We'll see. Part 5. Every time I go to record, fucking dog barks. It never fails me. Okay, yeah, give me a minute, guys. Alright, I think it's done, but I'm gonna move on. Part 5, A New Beginning, I don't like. Jason Voorhees isn't even in this movie, because remember, he died in the last one. The premise is Tommy Jarvis is back as an adult, and he's locked away. Not locked away, but he's in this halfway home for, like, troubled and disturbed kids and teens. And one of the guys snaps and kills one of the people there. And the paramedic, or the the paramedic, I believe, that discovers him is the father of the kid. So he snaps and takes on the identity of Jason and goes around and vows revenge. I just don't like it. I mean, again, maybe once I go back and watch this film in depth, I'll have a different opinion, but for right now, I'm putting it in D tier. No Jason, no bueno. And you're gonna see that again later on. Now, part 6, Jason Lives, is another one of my favorites. It's definitely at least a high B. Tommy Jarvis is back, 4, 5, and 6, but part 6 is the first time we see zombie Jason, basically. In the first several, he was, I guess, I don't know if you'd call him a human, because he drowned as a boy, but he wasn't really a resurrected zombie. This one he was. So yeah, I'm putting it in A tier, below part 4 though. So at the beginning, Tommy Jarvis goes back to the grave of Jason and like stabs him with this metal rod, I think, to assure that he's dead. And lightning strikes, zaps his heart, resurrects him. He's got maggots and his face is all decayed and decrepit. And Kane Hodder just looks like a bad ass in this movie. The look of Jason is amazing in here. And we got zombie Jason. this movie is a little more tongue-in-cheek and pokes fun at a lot of horror tropes and stereotypes from what I remember. It can get a little corny. I think this is the one where the one guy gets killed by getting thrown into the tree and leaves a smiley face imprint. It's a little dumb. It's actually very dumb, but I like the movie for what it is. The ending, I'm trying to think. Oh, the ending is where he gets thrown into the lake and he dies in the lake. So, he dies again in this one. Yeah, I really do enjoy this movie. Freaking dog, I thought you went away. I'm sorry about that, guys. But yeah, easily probably my top 2, if not top 3. Next up, we've got, oh god, I'm gonna have to cut this freaking video again, aren't I? Would you please bring your dog inside? He is clearly unhappy with being outside right now. For the love of my viewers, please. Did that work? It worked for now. I'm gonna run with it. So part 7 is, what is that called? Again, brain farts. I always call them by the parts and never their names. Part 7 is the New Blood. So this is basically Jason versus Carrie. Before Freddy versus Jason, we had Carrie versus Jason. A little girl at the beginning of the film, I think, is like running from her abusive dad, and she all of a sudden gains she has had these powers, I guess, but she's basically a telekinesis, a telepath, right? That's the right word. She can control things with her mind. She makes the deck, or the port, collapse under her father, and he drowns to death. Well, years later, she comes back, and she regrets it, so she tries to channel her energy and bring her father back to life. But coincidentally enough, it's the same lake that Jason is under, and she channels the wrong dead body and brings Jason back to life. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't like this movie. Again, maybe I'll have a different opinion when I watch it again, but I just don't like the concept of having a new superhuman aspect. It doesn't make me fear for the little girl like you would for Corey Feldman and Tommy Jarvis's character. It makes me just think, oh, this is hokey and cheesy, which Friday is to an extent, but not that extent. I don't know. I don't like it. And then at the very end, I think again, oh, yeah, at the very end, she finally channels all of her energy to her dead father. Her father comes back to life, ties Jason up, and brings him back underwater to kill him again. It's D tier. I still put it above part 5 for the simple fact that it has Jason in it, and at least it's, I don't know. I don't even remember a lot of the kills from these movies, just the premise itself. Some of the kills I do, some I don't, but this is definitely a franchise I need to watch in depth again, and maybe I'll grow a different appreciation for it. I don't know. Oh god, it just gets worse and worse. Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, which should be titled Jason Takes a Boat, or Jason Takes a Cruise Ship. I don't know, because he's barely in Manhattan. It's just a weird movie. The one iconic thing I do remember is the boxer on the roof. He's like boxing Jason, and Jason uppercuts him and knocks his head off. That's great. It's one of my favorite memories of the entire franchise, but other than that, I just couldn't freaking be bothered with this film. I think at the end, this girl throws acid on him or something, and the face reveal is dumb. It doesn't look as good as 7, 6, and all the previous ones. It's very weird looking. I get it's supposed to be more decrepit and decayed, but it just looks weird. Oh, and he's brought back to life in this movie because a couple on their boat, I think, drags an anchor across the floor, which gets stuck on him, and trips a power line or something, which electrocutes him back to life. Zombie Jason, ladies and gentlemen. And then at the end, the girl, I think she drowns him in water or something, I forget, but basically he reverts back to being a little boy. I don't know know if that's supposed to be in her head, because I think she's had hallucinations throughout the movie. I don't know. Again, another weird concept. I know I hammered home that the first 3 were just the same movie, but part 4 did it right, part 6 did it right. These 3 just went way either too much, too different, or the hype was there was a lot of hype, I feel, in anticipation for part 8, and it just shat the bed, I think. No, God, it gets worse and worse and worse. So I would put part 8. It's right on par with part 5. I'm gonna put part 5 ahead of it, at least for the simple fact that part 5 tried to do something different. I don't know. Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell, I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. It's the worst one in the entire franchise for me. I think I'd put it in F tier, maybe. Yeah, it's either very, very low D or F. Jason is not in it. The opening scene is so badass, where it's this girl in a cabin. Jason stalks her. I don't know how Jason comes back to life again all of a sudden, and she's chasing the girl. He's chasing the girl throughout the woods, and all of a sudden spotlights jump, and there's 30 soldiers that come and kill Jason and shoot him up. It was a trap. They blow up Jason with a grenade, but the coroner, Jason's heart starts beating, and the coroner has this freak out moment and eats Jason's heart, and then the demonic energy leaves Jason's body and goes into him, and now he's Jason Voorhees, and this energy jumps from person to person throughout the film, I think. And so while they are technically Jason Voorhees, they don't look like it. It's just regular people, and I hate that. I hate it. The concept is dumb. We didn't need this weird backstory as to why Jason is Jason. It's so far gone from the original 3 that I just cannot get behind it. Maybe I'll appreciate it more down the road, but I highly doubt it. I don't even remember if the kills were amazing. That's all I remember about this movie is where the hell is Jason? And I just didn't like it. Now the ending is nice because he does get killed again, and the sword goes through him, and all the demon spirit things leave his body, and then a bunch of hands come up from hell and drag him under. Jason Goes to Hell, wink wink. But after that, you see just his mask sitting at the top of the sand, and Freddy Krueger's glove comes up and pulls Jason's mask down, setting up Freddy vs. Jason a decade later. That I like. And I love the look of Jason in this movie. It's probably one of my favorite ones, but you don't see it very often. So, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what to say. But yeah, it's F tier for me. That's all I can say at that point. Okay, after that, now this is where I'm going to piss some people off. Jason X, Part 10, otherwise known as Jason in Space. I'm putting this B tier. It's either B or A. Listen, before you leave a dislike and cuss me out in the comments, I have a soft spot for this movie because of my childhood. I really loved it as a kid. I watched it probably more than any other one, except for maybe Freddy vs. Jason. It's corny, it's dumb, it's cheesy, and I love every second of it. Yes, a lot of it has to do with nostalgia, and I will acknowledge that right up front, but I can't help it. Mega Jason, the Space Jason, the Uber Jason, whatever you want to call him, is so cool looking, so badass. I love the look of Jason himself. Basically, a bunch of army people capture Jason, have him locked up, try to kill him. I think it doesn't work. He eventually escapes, goes on a killing rampage, and they lock him in one girl locks him in a cryogenic, whatever, chamber, where he freezes. But as he does that, he stabs through the chamber, stabs her, and releases all that freezing stuff, which also freezes her. Basically, it preserves their bodies for like 1,000 years or whatever, and we're in the future, in space. And people discover them all that time later. They nurse her back to health. She's like, where the hell is he at? Oh, don't worry, he's locked up. She tries to warn them. They don't believe her. They should have believed her. He breaks loose, goes on a rampage in space. Eventually, he is transformed to this uber, mega, futuristic Jason, which I love. And then I think by the end, he's like knocked into space or something like, I don't know. It's great. It's dumb. I love it. I can't help it. I wouldn't say love it. I really enjoy it. I'll leave it at that. Next up, we have Freddy versus Jason again. One of my favorite ones. It's going to probably be A tier, but I think I like this more than Jason Lives. Maybe not quite as much as part 4. Do I? I don't know. It's up here. It's one of these two. I can't lie. Oh, which one is it? Oh man, this is difficult. I'm gonna put it below. My nostalgia wants to put it above, but I will put it below for now. My caveat is, this is a better Freddy movie than it is a Jason movie. So we'll use that as my excuse to put it below, but basically, Freddy is back, but he's weak. His powers are weak. People don't believe in him, so he needs to install fear into the kids of Elm Street again. So he invokes Jason, brings him back to life, and essentially Jason installs that fear in everybody, and it allows Freddy to kill people in their dreams again. But by the end of it, the teens, Jason is almost like the good guy in this one. You kind of feel bad for him because he's being used and manipulated by Freddy. And by the end, Freddy gets brought out into the real world by the teens. And Jason is waiting like, yeah, you messed up, big guy. And you get Freddy versus Jason battle at the end. Again, it's weird, Jason kind of being the somewhat protagonist, even though he kills a bunch of people. But, yeah, really enjoy this film for what it is. Again, a lot of it is nostalgia. I have this movie and I've watched it more than any other Jason movie. So yeah, I really love it for what it is. I know having Jason X and Freddy vs. Jason at the top is going to piss a lot of fans off, but hey, I have part 4 and part 6 at the top as well, and the original too, so cut me some slack. Next up, Friday the 13th, the 2009 remake. This movie is what it is. I used to love it, love it, love it, love it, and I probably would have put it up here in A tier. Every time I watch it, I love it less and less, to the point where I don't love it anymore. I don't even really like it, but I like it and enjoy it. So for that, it'll be B tier. And I'm going to put it below Jason X and maybe the original 2. It's pretty much on par with the original 2. It's just this movie focuses so much on the sex and nudity and vulgarity, and I like how they give you some practical reasons of why Jason is able to do what he can do, how he can kind of teleport around using the underground tunnels and the tripwires. I love the look of Jason. I love the brutality and the gore. But there's just something about this movie that I like a little bit less each time that I watch it. I don't know, maybe I'll put it. And now I'll keep it here for now. Again, this list could fluctuate a lot, but for right now, I think this is where it's going to stand. Lone down in F tier, you got Jason Goes to Hell. D tier, you got part 5, 7, and 8. C tier, you got part 3 all by itself. tier, you got Jason X Part 1, Part 2, and the remake. And then at A tier, you got A tier, you have Part 4, 6, and Freddy vs. Jason. So, no S tier movies for me. You can make the argument that I could put these two up there, maybe, or at least that one. Maybe that'll change when I rewatch this later down the road, but for now, this is my tier list. Let me know what you guys think about this movie franchise rather. Which is your favorites, your least favorites? And until next time, guys, thank you so much for the support. Happy Friday the 13th in October. Let's go. And I'll see you in the next episode.